Well, we have plenty of contradictions to manage. We have a very strong backlog of signed contracts. Now with the uncertainties on trade and also on conflicts around the world.
And that plane was almost new. It had been delivered by the manufacturer Boeing around 2 months earlier. And that's too soon for a sneaker to fall apart, let alone a multi-million-dollar aircraft.
Boeing has landed its biggest ever aircraft order. The aircraft maker has agreed to sell as many as 210 wide-body aircraft to Qatar.
At the 2025 Paris Air Show, the scoreboard wasn't even close. Airbus walked away with $21 billion in new aircraft orders. Boeing no major deals, not one headline-worthy contract. For the first time in years, America's aviation titan stood still while its European rivals soared ahead. And the warning signs don't stop there. According to Deutsche Bank, Boeing could lose up to 62% of the global narrow-body jet market, ceding dominance in a category it once ruled. This isn't just about missed sales. It's about a collapse in trust and a shift in where the world turns for its wings. So what happened? And why is one of America's most iconic manufacturers falling out of the sky without a crash? In today's skies, speed and size no longer decide who wins. The new rules are about safety, sustainability, and reliability, and Boeing is falling behind on all three. Global carriers are voting with their wallets. KLM and Qantas are shifting away from Boeing's troubled lineup, opting instead for Airbus's A320neo and the long-range A350 XLR. Emirates' long-a-proud 777 customer has doubled down on Airbus too, choosing the A350 and A380 while quietly shelving plans for the delayed 707X. It's not just preference, it's risk management. Airlines no longer want to explain safety delays to passengers or regulators. They want aircraft that arrive on time, fly clean, and stay off the front page. Airbus is delivering that confidence. Boeing, still wrestling with production defects and regulatory probes, is delivering doubt.
Another Boeing plane crashed today, killing 250 people. That's 1,185 deaths in Boeing crashes in the last 10 years. Airbus has had 395 fatalities in that same time. Boeing planes crash with fatalities 40% more often than Airbus. Flying is still statistically safe.
And in an industry where one faulty rivet can ground a fleet, doubt is lethal. The unraveling of Boeing's global credibility began not in a boardroom, but in two devastating tragedies. Between 2018 and 2019, two Boeing 737 MAX jets fell from the sky, killing 346 people in total. Investigations revealed fatal flaws in the plane's MCAS flight control software, a system Boeing failed to properly disclose or train pilots on. The result, a global grounding that lasted 19 months, shattered consumer confidence, and triggered one of the most costly aviation scandals in modern history. But the damage didn't stop there. Since then, Boeing has struggled to escape the shadow of its own engineering failures. Its flagship 787 Dreamliner has been repeatedly grounded or delayed due to door plug issues, loose fasteners, and structural quality concerns. The once promising 707X program, touted as the next generation of long-haul travel, has faced years of delays, pushing key delivery dates beyond 2026. And each misstep reinforces the same question. Can Boeing still be trusted to build safe airplanes? Airlines, regulators, and passengers are no longer waiting for answers. The Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) has stepped scrutiny. International regulators are demanding independent inspection. And travelers, many of whom now check aircraft types before booking, are choosing with their wallets.
Door panels blowing off, missing bolts, fatal crashes. What's going on at Boeing?
It's not just about crashes anymore. It's about a culture of shortcuts that now defines Boeing's reputation. Once seen as a symbol of American precision, Boeing is now a cautionary tale, a brand associated not with innovation, but with negligence.
The Boeing 787 Dreamliner was flying from Spain to Uruguay when it was hit by that severe turbulence. People on the plane were thrown into the air. One man, you can see him there, had to be pulled out of overhead luggage.
And in a post-pandemic world where resilience, quality, and public confidence matter more than ever, that's not a competitive disadvantage. That's an existential threat. As Boeing staggered under safety scandals, and delivery delays, Airbus quietly rewrote the rules of modern aviation. In 2025, the global competition for aircraft isn't just about range, speed, or even cost anymore. It's about one brutal metric: carbon efficiency. And Airbus, it didn't just meet the new standard, it defined it. At the center of that strategy is the A321XLR, a narrow-body jet with wide-body ambitions. With a range of nearly 4,700 nautical miles, it can fly from New York to Rome or from Delhi to Tokyo without a refueling stop. But the real power lies beneath the wings. This aircraft burns up to 30% less fuel per seat compared to older generation models, making it a carbon tax killer in jurisdictions from the EU to Australia. That's not hype. It's why over 500 orders have come in from airlines like Qantas, JetBlue, American KLM, and Indigo, many of whom had once leaned heavily on Boeing. WSJ Flight Global. And then there's the A350 Airbus's flagship long-haul model and possibly Boeing's worst nightmare. Built with a 53% carbon fiber reinforced plastic fuselage, the A350 is lighter, stronger, and 25% more fuel efficient than comparable wide-body planes. Its Rolls-Royce Trent XWB engines are already certified for Sustainable Aviation Fuel (SAF) and are designed to withstand harsher climate policies under tightening EU emissions trading system rules. What does that mean in practice? For carriers based in Europe or flying into carbon-regulated airspace, the A350 and A321XLR offer more than fuel savings. They offer regulatory immunity. By flying cleaner aircraft, airlines can slash emissions penalties, gain preferred landing slots, and even receive carbon credits under new bilateral green aviation treaties between the EU and Asia. Meanwhile, Boeing is still scrambling. It's equivalent to the A321XLR. The 737 MAX 10 is not only delayed again due to FAA recertification issues, but it also lacks the range and fuel economy needed to compete on key transcontinental routes. As for long-haul, the 777X has been pushed back so many times that airlines are now pivoting orders toward Airbus just to lock in delivery before 2030's carbon benchmarks hit full force. But the killer move isn't just technical, it's strategic. Airbus is building faster. At a time when Boeing is still delivering aircraft 2 to 4 quarters behind schedule, Airbus has ramped up production across its Toulouse and Hamburg plants, achieving historic output targets in Q2 2025. The reason: a full decoupling from U.S. supply chain volatility. Airbus sources its titanium from Kazakhstan, composites from Spain and Germany, and avionics from a diversified supplier pool across the EU and Japan, entirely bypassing the US-China tariff crossfire that has crippled Boeing's delivery rhythm. In fact, one executive from Lufthansa Group recently told Handelsblatt, "We don't just need planes, we need predictability." And right now, Airbus gives us both. It's not a coincidence that major government-backed carriers like Emirates, Turkish Airlines, and Air India are now exclusively favoring Airbus for next-decade expansion. Because this isn't just a brand preference, it's supply chain insurance. Climate compliance and performance optimization bundled into a single aircraft deal. So, while Boeing clings to slogans and legacy market share, Airbus is quietly executing a masterclass in economic positioning. By focusing on sustainability, delivery, reliability, and regional alignment, it's cornering the very space where aviation's future will be decided. This isn't a trade win. It's a strategic decapitation. The shift isn't subtle anymore. It's systemic. KLM, one of the world's oldest and most respected airlines, has officially pivoted. Once a loyal Boeing customer, it now anchors its future fleet around the A320neo and the A350. The message? It's not just about flying passenger. It's about flying clean and on time. And Boeing, for all its legacy, no longer guarantees either. Qantas, Australia's national carrier, didn't just upgrade its fleet, it launched a transformation. Under its bold Project Sunrise, Qantas is deploying the A350-1000 and A321XLR to enable ultra-long-haul routes like Sydney to London and Brisbane to Tokyo non-stop. These are missions Boeing once dreamed of owning, but Qantas made its decision based on what really matters in 2025: fuel efficiency, passenger safety, and carbon impact. Airbus delivered, Boeing didn't. And then comes Emirates, long seen as the jewel in Boeing's customer crown. Once committed to the futuristic 777X, Emirates has since slashed orders, pivoting instead toward a dual strategy of A350 and A380 revival. The reason Airbus planes, particularly those certified for Sustainable Aviation Fuel (SAF) blends, can cut cargo flight emissions by up to 25%, a game changer, in an era where carbon taxes are no longer theory, but reality. But This isn't just a shopping list of aircraft swaps. It's a complete ecosystem migration. Across continents, airlines are ditching not just Boeing jets, but Boeing's delivery risk, its certification delays, and its political entanglements. In their place, they're adopting a European ecosystem, cleaner supply chains, greener fuel systems, and predictable delivery cycles backed by Airbus's decentralized manufacturing model. The underlying trend, sustainability, is no longer optional, it's infrastructure. Airlines are rebuilding their operations around SAF-ready engines, lightweight carbon composite frames, and aircraft that meet 2028 carbon compliance targets today. And Airbus. It's the only OEM hitting those targets with volume reliability and cross-border support. What Boeing used to call loyalty is now being redefined as liability. The industry isn't just shifting fleets, it's shifting its trust. The numbers don't lie, and they don't flatter Boeing. At the 2025 Paris Air Show, Airbus walked away with 780 new aircraft orders, representing an estimated $21 billion in contracts. Boeing didn't announce a single major deal. For the first time in over a decade, the world's premier aerospace showcase felt like a one-player game. But this wasn't a fluke, it was a culmination. As of May 31, 2025, Airbus had already delivered 243 aircraft, nearly on par with its target of 245. Boeing, by comparison, had delivered 220 planes despite having more backlog and more promises to fulfill. The delivery gap isn't just about numbers, it's about credibility. Airlines don't just want aircraft, they want aircraft on time, certified, and reliable. And Boeing's recent history, plagued by certification delays, grounding incidents, and supplier chaos, has shattered that confidence. But here's where the gap becomes a chasm. In the highly competitive narrow-body segment, the workhorses of global aviation, Airbus now commands nearly 62% of the market. Boeing's share, just 38% and sliding. That's not a cycle, that's a trend. A structural realignment in favor of European aerospace leadership. And the future doesn't look any easier for Boeing. While Airbus ramps up production capacity in Germany, France, Canada, and even Mobile, Alabama, Boeing is still untangling manufacturing defects from its suppliers and seeking FAA recertification on models delayed for years. Meanwhile, customers from Latin America to Southeast Asia are building their long-term fleet plans around Airbus. Why? Because Airbus offers more than airplanes. It offers certainty. This is no longer a race between two equals. It's a slow-motion separation where one player is scaling and the other is scrambling. Airbus isn't just winning orders, it's winning the future of flight. In aviation, trust isn't built on slogans or tariffs. It's earned through consistency, safety, and delivery. Boeing once dominated the skies, backed by American industrial might and global prestige. But somewhere between corporate shortcuts, overpromised fixes, and political distraction, the brand lost more than market share. It lost confidence, while Washington pushed simple tariffs as a silver bullet for complex problems. Airbus quietly built something more powerful, a reputation. One grounded not in politics, but in performance. And now, it's Airbus, not Boeing, who's redrawing the global flight map. From Paris to Perth, carriers are choosing aircraft that are safer, greener, and more reliable. Planes that meet climate targets arrive on time and don't come with regulatory baggage. This isn't just a shift in preference, it's a shift in era. Airbus isn't filling a gap, it's reshaping the future of aviation. And for Boeing, the turbulence may just be beginning. Is this the end of Boeing's global dominance? Can America's aerospace icon still recover? Or are we witnessing the dawn of a new Airbus-led century in flight? Drop your thoughts in the comments.